I just completed Google's new cybersecurity program, and I'm going to give you a full breakdown on it right now. If you don't already know, my name is Josh, and I do a lot of content on cybersecurity and tech in general on this channel, and I actually have a lot of industry experience already in both cybersecurity and IT, and then even some software development. I have a few degrees and a whole bunch of certifications already, so I kind of went through this program more so with a critical eye with the intent on doing a review on it in the end. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on this. And I actually do teach my own hands-on cybersecurity course, and one of my students in Discord recently asked me what's the difference between a Google Cybersecurity Program and the one we're taking here? So trying to maintain being the king of transparency, I wanted to do a kind of full review on the Google Cybersecurity Program and kind of compare it with my program as well as Security Plus, because pretty much everyone knows what Security Plus is, and a lot of people are probably wondering how Google's program compares up against that. I'm going to kind of compare those three programs and be as unbiased as I possibly can. I'm going to compare them on the basis of theory, application of theory, which is like kind of being the hands-on component of things, as well as employability. And then I'll talk about cost a bit as well, and kind of compare and contrast the strength and weaknesses of these three programs to kind of give you a good idea of what fits where on your journey from wherever you are now into getting an actual job in cybersecurity. So if you're even slightly interested in working cybersecurity, highly recommend you watch this video to the end. I know everyone says that, right? But I'm going to do my best to seriously red pill you on the topics of going from zero and essentially getting a job in cybersecurity and where all the courses fit together. So if you think I am being sketchy or something, call me out in the comments. Definitely not the case. I'm going to give my absolute honest opinion on everything. And I will say, like, right off the bat, before I start getting into the comparison and everything, I think that Google did a really good job on their program. And before I even considered making this video, I was already recommending my students to check out Google's program. So my course is not really a competitor to the Google Cybersecurity Program. They just work really well together, but I'll get into more detail and more depth on that later. And before we get started, I want to give some stuff away. Me and my social media manager spent a long time building these CompTIA Security Plus and CISSP practice question decks. Each deck has over 1,000 cards in it with explanations for the correct answers and some of the incorrect answers. Both of these decks were built with ChatGPT and GPT-4. The content I used for them was Professor Messer's content. I have a lot of references to Professor Messer's videos for like the answer explanations for Security Plus. And then the CISSP deck, it was the actual official CBK was used in the prompts to kind of build the practice questions and answers for this deck as well. So they're both pretty good, absolutely free. So go ahead and check those out in the description. You can download them, use them however you want. And exchange for the decks, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subs either this month or next month. So yeah, let's do our best on that. So thank you so much. So getting right into the core content, this is generally the path that you must traverse going from, essentially zero or whatever the case may be into actually getting a job into cybersecurity. First, like the idea is you have to get some kind of knowledge or, cybersecurity theory down, and then you build on top of that with the application of theory or doing like hands-on practice type things. And then you build on that by working on your employability. And then when you kind of have all of these things, like you've walked the path, then it becomes like much more feasible and easy for you to break into the field of cybersecurity. So kind of just, I'm going to be referencing that a lot. So I just kind of wanted to explain it a bit. So basically, I'm going to explain these three areas, like theory, the application of theory, and then employability. And then we're going to kind of go through each program, like Google's, and then mine, and then Security Plus, just to show you where I feel each one of these programs has strengths and weaknesses kind of on this path into employability, if that makes sense. Oh, and before I start getting into the explaining and comparing and contrasting of like the Google Cybersecurity Program with the others, this is kind of how I visualize the program's strengths and weaknesses on this graph here. So basically you can see like Security Plus in purple. Mostly the curriculum inside Security Plus is really heavy on theory. I think there's some practical components to it, but I think you need to buy some extra thing or go through some extra like online training for them. So as far as like Security Plus goes, it's super heavy into theory, but there's not much employability and there's not really much practical skills associated with it. And then getting into Google's cybersecurity program, it basically covers all levels of this, but in my opinion, it's it's really, really strong in theory, and it's relatively strong in terms of the application of that theory and the practical skill. I'll dive into this much deeper later on. And then for my course personally, I didn't want to cover like, the basic theory of cybersecurity, because in my opinion, like a lot of people have a hard time bridging that gap from, getting certs into actually getting a job. So mine is like really heavy into employability and the application of theory, if that makes sense. So just to kind of give you an idea of where these things land on this roadmap to getting a job, it kind of looks like this. And these shapes aren't, like 100% accurate, like the size and shape and everything. It's just to kind of convey an idea, like Security Plus, theory heavy, Google Plus, practical skills and theory heavy, but, it spans the whole pathway. Like my course spans the whole pathway, but it's heavy in employability and the application of theory, if that makes sense. So that being said, getting right into comparing and contrasting the theory, we're going to start out with theory for all 3 different programs. So I'll just start out with the theory for Google Cybersecurity Program. And so if I'm being honest, like I don't know of another program on the internet like today that covers like the whole theory section, I guess, of cybersecurity in such a holistic manner than Google Cybersecurity Program. It's probably the best. We'll talk about price later, but the value of it is really, really crazy. The course is really, really well polished, and it covers a really broad range of topics. And I recognize this when it came out, and this is, primarily the reason that I recommend my students, like if somebody's like brand new to cybersecurity and they just purchase my course right away, I always recommend them to get Security Plus level knowledge. But now that Google has released such a fantastic course, I've been recommending people to like go back and then consider taking Google's program to kind of get that holistic, foundation of security knowledge, because it's quite good, to be honest. I haven't rigorously compared like the Security Plus exam objectives with the stuff in Google's program yet, but after going through the course, I get the sense that you could probably just go through Google's cybersecurity program and then just straight up take Security Plus afterwards. I get that sense having gone through the program. And coincidentally enough, they actually offer a discount voucher for Security Plus. So that's, that probably is why. But in terms of theory, like Google's program, it's really, really good. And then getting into my program in terms of theory and cybersecurity, the way I kind of delivered theory in mine, like I said, I don't want to make a course where I just teach, the basics of cybersecurity, because my thought on that was there's so many like on the internet already. Google just like made it better essentially. But basically, I focus more on the application of theory and employability, like I said. So I do cover theory in my course. And the portions where I do cover theory, I cover it really, really well in a really, really intuitive way. But my theory is more so focused on lasering in on certain topics that tend to come up in interviews that an interviewer might know, that they might expect you to know. I really laser focus in on that. And then I laser focus in on any theory that's required to successfully get through the hands-on portion of my course. So the way I cover theory is really good, but it is not holistic in the way that Google covers cybersecurity theory, if that makes sense. And then talking about theory in terms of Security Plus, Security Plus theory it's pretty good, to be honest with you. When we're not thinking about cost or like any of that stuff, I can't say that they really deliver the theory really well, but the topics that are required to pass Security Plus, they're good topics. And before Google's cybersecurity program came out, I would recommend people to go and get Security Plus level knowledge, not necessarily the cert. I recommend them to get that level of knowledge before kind of going through my course, which is part of the reason that we created that Security Plus practice question deck to help people kind of patch any knowledge gaps they have, if that makes sense. But when comparing Security Plus theory to the theory that's covered in my course and Google's, Security Plus for sure has like a more broad range of theory than my course does, right? But I kind of envision Security Plus as kind of a subset of Google's cybersecurity program. What I mean by that is Google's cybersecurity program covers more things actually than CompTIA Security Plus, if that makes sense. So if I have to pick a quote unquote winner, I don't know if I should be using that word, but if I had to pick a winner as far as like theory goes, I have to give it to Google because it's quite comprehensive and their delivery of it is so good and the course is just so polished. For the winner, like the winner of theory, I'm going to assign this to Google, right? Their program is great for theory. So getting into the practical experience section, or the application of theory, again, starting out with Google, they actually do a pretty good job of, helping you implement the things that you kind of practice. That is, they have labs and stuff. The labs it's kind of in a sandbox, so it's like really, really controlled. And I understand why they did it like this, because the volume of students that needs to go through that program, it's a lot, right? And if they use some kind of like dynamic, actual real environment, it's just going to be a maintenance nightmare for them. But they have like a lot of little labs and modules and stuff where you can like log into a VM and like do some commands and stuff, and then they will like check your work. And then there are some SQL queries where you query logs or you query a SIM, and you can kind of practice doing that and practice looking at logs. And there's just a bunch of stuff like that. There's even a section on Python where I don't know how they did it. There's probably like some interpreter on the back end or something that interprets your code and then shows you the output. And it's just it's a nice environment, and it lets you practice the things that you kind of learn in that course in a nice controlled environment that's really low maintenance for them. It's really well delivered, especially for the price, which we'll kind of talk about later. I don't really have anything bad to say about this at all, to be honest. So getting into the practical hands-on portion of my course, this is where my course really shines, I guess I could say. So with my course, we actually build an environment in the cloud in Microsoft Azure. We create our own tenant, like the student creates their own tenant, their own subscription, and we essentially create a miniature SOC that's like a security operations center in Azure. And we have like a honeynet as well. So we create all these like virtual machines and other resources and intentionally expose them to the internet. We configure logging for all of the resources we create and send them all to like a central repository. We provision a SIM, which is Microsoft Sentinel. And we pretty much do everything with actual live traffic in a live environment, because when you expose stuff to the internet, it's a matter of minutes until someone discovers it and starts trying to brute force it and like break into it. So we kind of take advantage of that fact in our course, and we use the actual like live attack traffic on the internet to generate logs, and we inspect those logs and we create incidents and like alerts based off of that. And we can practice actual incident response just from exposing our environment to the internet. So that's kind of the basis of the hands-on portion of my course. And this is not necessarily free in the sense, for me, I can't just be like, mine's better. There's like a drawback to it, of course, because it's delivered in Azure. Azure's kind of a dynamic environment, right? It's like Microsoft's cloud platform, and they change it and they update it. And when they change the UI, I have to go in and like update the course and like patch it quite a bit and stuff. So to kind of combat this, I hang out on Discord a lot, and I interact with the students quite a bit, because they'll notice if something's different, they'll tell me, and I have to go and fix it essentially. Whereas Google's program, their environment is really controlled, so it's easy for them to just kind of make it how they want and then just send it, and then you can still get experience with it, but it's just like kind of different when you're dealing with live traffic, and that's kind of like the thing with my course. So that's the first hands-on component. The second hands-on component of it is I have my own company essentially, and if other students want to assist other students in Discord, like when I'm sleeping or something, because I'm in Japan right now and my time difference is off. To kind of make this short, like if someone gets 10 assists, like they help 10 people, they're allowed to use my company as like experience on their resume, and they can use me as a reference, and they might have a resume entry that looks something like this. And if you help 20 people, you get like a different title. So like cybersecurity support analyst for 20. And if you help 30 people and do some kind of advanced contribution to the course, you'll get like title like cybersecurity support engineer. And then, if you make the advanced contribution, I'll kind of add it to the course and like give you recognition for it. So it's kind of like my course is like ever expanding and like changing, and it just requires updating a lot too, because it's delivered on a live platform, right, controlled by Microsoft. So that's kind of the difference between my course and Google's course. And then of course, getting into Security Plus, I don't believe there's a hands-on component to it, unless you you purchase like some additional module. You can also, I believe you can purchase like a training as well, like an instructor-led training, and I believe that has some hands-on components to it, but it's quite expensive. I'll like research it and put the price on the screen. But for these three, in terms of like the application of theory and like hands-on experience portion, I have to say like my course wins in this case. Google's is so good, but it's as good as it can be without them having to spend like a lot of extra resource and time. The only reason I'm saying like mine is better is because we're dealing with live traffic, and then there's like the secondary experience component where you can have like actual experience from a company on your resume. Obviously the downside of this is it creates quite a bit of overhead for me. So I have to, think of new ways to deal with that. And it just creates like a lot of work for me essentially. And I have to like keep maintaining the course. So it's not like for free, I have like a better hands-on experience than Google's. That's, there's a cost to everything. So for experience, I'll just, give that to my course. And then when it comes to employability and the job hunt, basically this is stuff, remember, about, assuming you have all your theory down and assuming you have all your hands-on stuff down, you're like pretty good at it. The employability and job hunt essentially is, making sure that you're employable. So like, making sure you convey everything you've done like on your resume and like your portfolio and all that stuff. So getting into how Google does this, they actually do pretty good. I'm quite impressed with it because they make use of like a really nice resume template. I don't believe they talk about like, applicant tracking system and all of that, but I looked at their resume template and it's quite good. They provide you with one, and they acknowledge the fact that you should probably have a portfolio. And instead of like giving you like a template portfolio or like something really solidified to work with, they kind of give you an example of like the stuff you can use, like where you can host your portfolio, and like kind of give you some like kind of high level ideas for it. I feel like they could have gone a bit deeper with that, but the fact that they even like brought that up as something that you should worry about is good in and of itself. They talk about in the interview process, like how to interview well and like how to anticipate questions. And they cover a STAR format that is like when you're answering behavioral questions, you want to talk about like the situation, the task, the action, and the result. I think A stands for action. And then the result of like what you did. It's kind of a way to story tell your answer in a, I guess, more holistic way, which is really important when you start trying to get jobs that are above entry level, which in my opinion, like entry level cyber is like already mid-career. So Google does like a great job, to be honest. It's just really high level, but they do a really good job. So I'm quite impressed with their, in terms of like their employability and like job hunt. They do give like a few examples of jobs to apply for as well, but I feel like they could have done more and given more sample interview questions, but it's pretty good, to be honest, relative to most of the rest of the stuff on the internet. And then getting into my course in terms of like employability and the job hunt, basically like I cover kind of the same things that Google does, like the resume, portfolio, and all this, but the way Google does it, they kind of do it at a high level, and mine is more like kind of focused and like narrow. So for example, when it comes to the resume, I actually like build a resume, which like at least going through the cybersecurity course and doing the things I recommend, I produce something and be like, at the very baseline, your resume should look like this. And I'll like give a template that the student will fill out. Kind of same thing with the portfolio. You can do all kinds of projects in your portfolio, but I provide kind of a baseline portfolio, like, okay, like once you graduate, your portfolio should have like this stuff on it. And then it's kind of up to the student to, make it make sense for them, like edit it and adjust it a little bit. And as far as like interview questions and like preparing for interview goes, my approach to this is a bit different than Google's. Google kind of gives you like a high level advice, like their program on, like what you could expect and like sample interview questions and stuff. But my approach to this is a bit different. I put a lot of emphasis on practice and repetition and intuition building, and like more emphasis on anticipation, like anticipating what type of questions might be asked for which roles, and how to actually deal with answering questions that you don't know the answer to. And in my course, I provide 250 like practice interview questions that are related to different topics within the course inside of an Anki deck, so you can use spaced repetition and kind of practice it. And I'm about to release like a video version of at least 50 of these. I'll probably make this free, to be honest, but I'll include it in the course as well, obviously. But I give like a lot of example interviews, a lot of example interview questions, and the reason for this is, of course, I recommend a method to practice interviewing, just because not only like going through a lot of questions it will teach you stuff, of course, but it kind of increases your skill and your ability to articulate yourself, and it frees up a lot of mental energy like once you actually are doing the interview. So my focus is like more narrow, I suppose, and I give like actual things as opposed to Google's, which is a bit more like broad and like high level. And then getting into CompTIA really quick in terms of like job hunt and employability, I didn't see anything in their exam objectives about recommendations for employment or anything like this, but I will give CompTIA name recognition, right? Because everyone pretty much knows what CompTIA is at this point, and most people in the security realm know what Security Plus is as well. So they have that going for them. I don't think they like acknowledge like portfolio and like resume and like all that, but they do have name recognition. So yeah. So in terms of like the winner for this one, to be honest, I can't say that my course wins over Google, and like I can't really say Google wins over my course. It's just like Google's is more broad, mine is more narrow. I make a lot of use of ChatGPT as well to teach people like how to use it and like have an intuition of like when and how to use it. But I think probably Google like can't include products like that because it's whatever like brand or whatever. So probably I'll say my like Google and my course like probably ties, because I do stuff that it's not like Google can't do the things that I'm doing. It's probably they don't want to for some reason. I don't know why. It might some kind of like internal rule or something. I don't know, but the way Google deals with like employability and job hunt is really it's really comprehensive and it's really good. And I know mine works. It's been field tested like really hard with my IT course and the cybersecurity course. A few people started getting jobs with this already, even though it's been released last month. So they're both really good. I can't say like who wins in this case. And I just want to talk about accountability before we talk about cost. So basically, to me, like accountability is like if something goes wrong with the course, if you have a problem with it, or you're not getting the results that you're hoping to get, having like someone to go to and like talk to you and be like, hey, this is messed up, or like, hey, I expected this. That's kind of accountability. So like getting into like accountability for Google. Google being like a massive company, it's kind of hard to like point to like one person and be like, hey, like help me with this, or like, hey, this is broken, or hey, your course is like bad, or whatever the case may be. It's hard to do that with large companies, so I can't like fault Google for this, but I will say their accountability like probably beats out CompTIA. Like I don't really appreciate CompTIA as a company, if I'm being completely honest, but their Security Plus curriculum is good. So I'm not going to say like Google doesn't have accountability, because they have more, at least, than CompTIA. For as far as accountability for me, like I'm directly accessible in Discord and people just pinging me all day. Or if someone has problems with the course, or they're having an issue, like they get locked out or something's not right, I can just I'm like fully accountable. I cannot escape, right? Because it's just me. I'm just like one person. So I have like higher accountability than these other two. I feel like CompTIA like doesn't really have any accountability. I think they can just like do whatever they want. I've been kind of experienced their lack of accountability firsthand myself before when I was taking certifications from them. But yeah, so getting into the cost of things, starting out with Google. Their Google Cybersecurity Program, it's delivered through Coursera, so you get your first 7 days for free, and then after that I believe it's $49 a month, something like this. And if you're a superhuman and you finish it in 7 days, then it's free, right? If you cancel your account before you start getting charged. I will say, if you're a new person, you will not be able to do this. It just takes too long. And there's too much stuff. It's very comprehensive, but that's the pricing model. And they kind of recommend, I forget exactly how much it was, like X number study per day or per week or something. Will take you about 6 months to finish the Google Cybersecurity Program. Likely people are going to be finishing it way sooner than this, for sure. I kind of like blitzed through it really fast because I knew most of the topics. I did learn some stuff from it, to be honest, but I just like blitzed my way through it and just did the exams like really, really fast, just so I can get an intuition of like what's in the course. So maybe expect to take like 3 to 6 months at $50 per month. For my course, like the hands-on cybersecurity SOC analyst course, it's $497 currently, and then you can use this discount code to get $10 off. It's gonna probably end up being something around like, you know, $448 or like $445, something like this, and you get access to it like forever essentially. And I patch it very often, and I add modules to it regularly, or I will be adding more in the future. So there's that. The Security Plus, just for the exam only, costs $392 as of right now. And then there's an actual if you take the Google Cybersecurity certificate, after you graduate, you'll get a discount code or something like this for taking CompTIA Security Plus. I forget exactly how much it is, but I'll put it on the screen. And then CompTIA does have like an instructor-led training for Security Plus, but it's like $2,500. I'm not certain who would buy that. I wouldn't recommend it, especially when the Google course exists, which is, in my opinion, essentially better than CompTIA Security Plus. So overview, cybersecurity theory, in terms of who's the quote-unquote winner for that, I would say Google. For the practical experience and skills section, I would say my course is a winner for it. Google's is quite good actually, but I feel mine is better at the expense of overhead for me, right? And then for accountability and for the job hunt and employability, mine and Google's is like really good. It's just different, so I can't really say like if Google wins or I win. I just can't say. They're both really good. Accountability, obviously, like I win by default because I'm like an individual versus like a large company. It's kind of unfair, but you know, I win this one by default. And then in terms of cost, it's kind of up to you to measure the value between Google's and my course. They cover different things. Like Google's is like really more heavy in holistically covering like the cybersecurity theory portion. They have like a really good practical skills application. Mine is like really heavy in job hunt execution, as well as the practical like hands-on portion of it. It's like quite heavy, so it's kind of up to you to gauge, you know, which one has more value. Google's is cheaper, obviously, right? Especially if you take 3 months, Google's wins, right? Because it's cheaper, but it kind of depends on the value and like what you're after. So I can't really I can't say who wins. I can't say like CompTIA probably doesn't win in terms of cost, but I just kind of want to talk a little bit and share my thoughts. So basically, like my course is designed for people who already have gone through like at least Security Plus level knowledge, or more ideally who have gone through the Google Cybersecurity Program. People with that level of knowledge are going to have a lot easier time in my course. Nonetheless, like a lot of people who have zero experience like take my course anyway, and at the end of my course, I do recommend, before I even like made this video, like when I released my course, when I seen at the end of my course, I have like a section for supplemental learning material, and I include Google Cybersecurity Program in there too. I just want to like reiterate the fact that it feels like a lot of gaps, and there's a lot of theory in it, and it's really good. Their hands-on portion is good as well. So in a perfect world where you have like, you know, enough money, I'd recommend doing both, to be honest with you. I used to recommend Security Plus in conjunction with my course, because there's a lot of people who have Security Plus already who are having trouble bridging that gap, and my course bridges that gap. I don't want to say perfectly, but close to perfectly. But now that Google has released this program, it's, in my opinion, the program itself, like name recognition aside, the program itself is, in my opinion, it's objectively better than Security Plus. Security Plus does have some benefit, like if you're talking about DoD 8570 certification or DoD 8140, where you're required to have, you know, Security Plus or, you know, other similar certs to work in certain federal positions or defense contractor positions. It's not like you can swap, you know, Google's program or my program for that. You have to get Security Plus for it. And then there's a whole CompTIA name recognition thing. But again, I don't feel that great about CompTIA as a company, to be honest. Their objectives for Security Plus it's pretty good. That's I guess all I have to really say about them. But yeah, check the link in the description. I'll put a link for Google Cybersecurity Program as well as my program. Definitely ask me any questions. If you have more questions you want me to like dive deeper and elaborate on anything, I'll be more than happy to do that. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.